Hello, channel members. Today I have something a little different for you. I did a poll on this asking if anybody would be interested in seeing a behind the scenes of editing a video, and there was a lot of interest. I was actually kind of surprised. So we're going to do this. Hopefully, yeah. I've never done this. It's kind of weird. I'm making a recording and editing a recording at the same time, so this is kind of weird. I hope I have it set up correctly and I don't have to redo this. So what we're working on today, this is a weapon test on the PTS that I did of the 10 millimeter pistol. And in fact, making this video was kind of an ordeal. I was recording it a couple days ago, and I talked about this on my live stream. But yeah, I was recording a couple days ago, and as I was at the end of the video, right, I was ready to do my outro, and my power flickered, and my UPS didn't work. That's where I realized that the batteries no longer hold a charge. So I lost everything and had to do this video again. So 20 minutes, although in this case it was a little longer. That was at like the 20-minute mark. And you can see here, right here, we're looking at about 24 minutes was the length of the recording. So that's a bit of work and kind of disheartening to lose it and have to do it all over again. But here we are. So this is not going to be necessarily a tutorial on how to use the particular software or whatever. I'm basically going to you'll basically shadow me as I do the edit, and I'll explain what I'm doing. And I also want to point out a couple of things, why I do certain things when I record as well. So let's just get started. So the program I use is called Shotcut. Is that in the screen? Yeah, it's right up here in the corner. It's called Shotcut. It's an open source free piece of software, and I quite like it. I didn't know anything about video editing at all when I started YouTube. So I didn't know what software to use. So I just Googled, and this was one that was recommended. I mean, there was a bunch that were recommended, but I like open source. There are other ones you can use that are like free versions of, like a light version of a paid piece of software. And those are going to they may have ads in them or whatever. And this is completely open source, completely free. I don't have to worry about, ads getting in the way or whatever. And it works pretty well. Now, the first thing I want to point out here is the window. If you look at it and it doesn't look like it's super clear, that is on purpose. Right here we have preview scaling at 540p. So this is a 1440 video, by the way, but it's scaling at 540. And the reason for that is just memory, because this program or video editing in general is pretty memory intensive. And if you are preview scale, if you're looking at the preview in the full resolution, it is going to make the editing it's going to be a lot clunkier. There's going to be delays, like when you're sliding, moving the slider around or whatever, you'll run into delays and whatever. And so the editing process is a lot rougher. Maybe if you have a high end, like a high enough end with a jillion whatever of memory. I don't. So we have the preview scaling here. It's good enough that I can tell what's going on, but it's also low enough that it doesn't get in the way of me editing. So the first thing we're going to do, we need to create we need to do a timeline here, what's called a timeline. So we just click on the video. We're going to drag it down here. This is the timeline. And what you'll see is actually a line right here. You should see it's pretty faint, but there's a line right here. So it puts it into two tracks, right? So the top track is the video and the bottom track is the audio. And this is really helpful for me when I edit because of the way I do things. I talk pretty much continuously. And if I'm not talking, chances are nothing is happening. And so that actually lets me skip through the video, like I'm editing. So I don't have to listen to this whole, this is at the 7-second mark, 35 seconds. So that's like half a minute. I can just skip. I don't need to listen to half a minute of dead space because I know based on this that nothing is happening based on just the way I do things. Plus I just barely recorded this. And so it's fresh in my memory. So I kind of know. But what I want to do is I want to play you the first little bit of the video unedited so you can kind of get an idea of what it looks like before, what it looks like after, instead of going through. So I'm going to edit this a little different. Normally I wouldn't do this because I don't need to, but we're going to go ahead and play this. We're going to put our marker right here. You can see our markers right here at the beginning. And one thing also, the volume may come through. I don't know how the volume is going to come through for you, but it tends to be a little louder in the editor than the final product goes. So sometimes it can be a little louder than it will normally end up. So let's see how this goes. So this is what I'm going to play you the first, couple of minutes of the video, and you can just see like what the before and after looks like. Hello and welcome back to Fallout 76. Today I am on the public test server to have a look at the 10 millimeter pistol. So one thing I want to point out here is why I do things the way I do So like, first of all, okay, so here's a loading screen. So I want to give you a little bit of what what my thought process is when I'm actually doing the recording. I want to do that as well. So we have a loading screen right here, and you can see I'm not talking, and that's intentional. You don't want to be talking through a loading screen. It just doesn't look good. And so that's kind of intentional for me as I talk before and I talk after, but during the loading screen, and it took a while to get used to not doing that. But that's intentional as well. But when I start out at the Rusty Pick, there's a reason for that. So in the live version, like if this was live, I would be at my camp. And what I like to do is I like to be at my camp. I'm usually away from it a little bit up the hill because I don't want to because camps are noisy. You got collectrons, you got NPCs, whatever. And so I try and get a little bit away from my camp so they're not talking while I'm doing my intro. And then I like to immediately go into my shelter. Well, on the PTS, shelters don't work because it's an Atomic Shop item and the Atomic Shop doesn't work. And the reason I like to go into a shelter is because when I'm showing the information on, in the Pip-Boy, like on the weapon or whatever, I like to have a dark background because it's easier to see. So if I go into a shelter and face my character up against a dark wall, that works really well. Plus I'm in my shelter, so nothing else is gonna, there's not gonna be other noises, other things happening. It's a really controlled environment. And I don't have that on the PTS, so I come to the Rusty Pick and I use one of their walls, and that's about as good as, at least as the best compromise that I've found. So that's why I start my PTS videos at the Rusty Pick. And I'm on a custom server. I'm on a private server, so I don't have to worry about other players or anything like that. So we're going to go into first person. We're going to go up against the wall. It's not perfect, but it is a dark enough background that what I show you, will be easily readable. This is the one I'll be using today. It is Stalkers with faster fire rate, reduced AP cost. I have it modified with a tweaked automatic receiver. For me, a 10mm pistol, if I'm running it, I got to run it as an automatic. Now, picking the receiver is actually not as easy as I thought it would be. There are several options, and I'll go over those in a minute. We've got the Align Long Barrel, Align Grip. Both of those serve to reduce the AP cost. So here I had a little bit of a brain meltdown. That does happen. I don't script my videos at all. Basically, I have kind of a list of things I want to make sure that I cover. Other than that, it just kind of flows. So I don't have a script that I follow. And sometimes a result of that is my brain just doesn't, my brain just stops processing. And I realize I don't know what to say next. And so I kind of sit back and I reset and we do it all over again. This is the one I'll be using today. It is Stalkers with faster fire rate, reduced AP cost. I'm using a tweaked automatic receiver. Now, choosing a receiver wasn't as easy as I kind of thought it would be. There are a few options, which I will show you in a minute. We've got the Align Long Barrel, Align Grip, Swift Magazine, and I'm using a glow sight. The analog to this would be on live would be the reflex sight, but now it is the glow sight that reduces AP cost and is supposed to increase VATS accuracy as well. We've also got it with the suppressor. I mean, that if I'm going to use Stalkers, I want to have a suppressor. All right, then we have a little bit of dead space. And now there are some changes you can see right away versus live. Number one, the damage is higher. This got a base damage increase of, I want to say it's either 70 or 71%, something like that. So it got a pretty big base damage increase, but it also got a nice increase in ammo capacity. On live, you'd be looking at 12 rounds. Now we have 24. And that means I could run a damage modifier on the first star instead of running quad. On live, if I'm running automatic, I'm pretty much using quad all of the time just because, yeah, the ammo capacity is pretty low. So, but at 24, that's very usable. We've also got an increase in AP cost. So a comparably modded pistol on live would be an AP cost of 6. So we're all the way up to 10. So that is a pretty significant increase, but we're also getting a bump in damage. So it kind of offsets. I'm not sure if the AP cost is, if I have that number right. Yeah, so that was me going, am I exactly right on the AP cost? I might be remembering wrong, so I'm going to hedge a little bit. I'm going to say that part again and just kind of hedge in case I'm off on the AP cost. So we do have a bit of an AP cost increase, so we're looking at an AP cost of 10. I think we're somewhere around 6 or 7 on live. I don't remember the exact number, but it's something like that. It's either 6 or 7. It's definitely lower than what we're seeing here. So we're getting more damage, but we're also getting more AP cost. Something else that took a hit is the range. We're looking at 134. Modded this way on live, we'd be looking at 174. So that is a bit of a hit when it comes to range. And it looks like this is just meant to fill a niche. If you're going to use an automatic 10mm pistol, it's now intended to be a short to mid-range weapon. I think this is a part where I go to, yeah, I go to the workbench here. So a little bit of dead space in there. So let's look at some mods. First up, let's look at the suppressor, because this is new. And this is not just for this weapon, it's for all weapons that take a suppressor. You'll see there at the bottom, plus 50% sneak attack damage. Now that text is not in live, so I'm assuming that we're not getting that bonus sneak damage with the suppressor on live. If it's hidden damage, I've never heard about it. But yeah, that is a new thing. You put a suppressor on a weapon and you're getting bonus sneak damage. So I think that's actually pretty cool. All right, we're just gonna skip this ahead a little bit since there's not really much to see here. We'll skip to there. So I run a tweaked automatic receiver on live, so that is the way I'm going to run it here. And that gives us bonus critical damage. There are a couple of other options that I would consider. Number one, we have the powerful automatic receiver. The damage that we do is more, but obviously we don't get the bonus critical damage. But the AP cost goes down as well. So we go from 10 down to 8. So you can stay in VATS longer. So I think this is a very reasonable option. That is another thing I try to do. Anytime I'm showing a weapon where there's, something like this, I try to not talk while I'm scrolling through, because I think that comes across kind of clumsy, where you're just kind of going, okay, let's find the thing. I like to just stop talking, find the next thing I want to talk about, and then start talking again. I think it just makes for a cleaner, it makes things just cleaner, at least to me. That's how it comes across. So to me, that's kind of like talking through a loading screen. If you're just like thumbing through the mods in this case and talking while you're doing it, it's kind of like, to me, it's the same kind of vein as talking through a loading screen. So I like to just stop talking, go to the next thing, and then start talking again. Another option will be the Prime automatic 10mm receiver. It does even more damage than powerful. The AP cost is in the middle, so we're at 9 AP, but you can see the range is more. So instead of 134, we're at 157, but we're losing fire rate. So instead of a 98 fire rate, we're at 89. So there's drawbacks to all of these, which I kind of like. It makes it a lot more interesting, and you have to put a little more thought into it when you're choosing the mods. But we're going to run the tweaked automatic for today's little run. Okay, at this point, I think you get the idea of what's happening. So let's go back to the beginning and start the editing process. So we're going to go back to the beginning, and I like to trim off a little bit. I don't necessarily want to start the video immediately. I like to have a little bit of air. I mean, it's not much. We're talking like a second of something, but I like to do a little bit of air, and we're going to use the it's a split. Okay. I was just thinking of this as just like a little whatever. I guess we'll call this a split. That's what it's called. So we're going to trim off the beginning there. And then we're going to leave a little tail at the end of this. And it's actually really easy because of the way I do the videos. It's one of those things where talking nonstop actually has a benefit, because I know that when I stop talking, I can put a cut there. And so then I do a little bit of split there, and we're going to go to the next spot. And I actually don't remember if this is where we start off. So what I'm going to do is we'll put a little trim spot there. And then we highlight this part. We're not going to use any of this. And I'm going to do a little, it's called ripple. Yeah, ripple delete. So I just hit this minus sign, and that's gone. And I can't remember if this section I did over, if I wanted to keep. So we're going to have to play through this again, because that does happen. This is the one I'll be using today. It is Stalkers with faster fire rate, reduced AP cost. I have it modified with the tweaked automatic receiver. For me, a 10mm pistol, if I'm running it, I got to run it as an automatic. Now, picking the receiver is actually not as easy as I thought it would be. There are several options, and I'll go over those in a minute. We've got the align long barrel, align grip. Both of those serve to reduce the AP cost. Yeah, this is, okay, so I had the brain fade there. Okay, so then we did it again. So let's go. And these are always funny. So if I see, I mean, I can tell by looking at the time, or at the timeline, or the, what is it? My brain went blank. The audio track here, I can tell when I have a long space like this and a long space like this followed by this. This is me clearing my throat every single time. That's what this is. Guarantee you, that's me clearing my throat. Yep, every time. Every time, that's what it is. I don't even have to listen to that. I can just tell. But I think we're gonna put another clip here, because we're gonna cut out some stuff here. But I think this is where we start over, right? This is the one I'll be using today. Yeah. Okay. So we start over there. So we're gonna go back here, and we're gonna highlight this section. This was my first go at it. And we are just going to get rid of it. And then we'll be starting right here. Now, one thing that I don't do is I don't do a bunch of takes. It's not like I don't like do a section and go, that was pretty good. Let's try it again better. For me, I do it. And if I like it, I move on. I don't want, cause you'll never make it perfect. So the only time I will do it over is if the first time is just like, okay, that wasn't good. If I don't think it was good or I messed up something, then I'll do that section over. But if I'm happy with a section, I don't go, let's see if we can do it better. I don't do that. I just go, you know what? That's good. I like it. Move on. Otherwise, you'll never finish a video. Because you'll always be striving for perfect. And perfect is just the enemy of getting things done. So I think this is the section we're going to keep, but we'll try this. This is the one I'll be using today. It is Stalkers with faster fire rate, reduced AP cost. I'm using a tweaked automatic receiver. Now, choosing a receiver wasn't as easy as I kind of thought it would be. There are a few options, which I will show you in a minute. We've got the Align Long Barrel, Align Grip, Swift Magazine, and I'm using a glow sight. The analog to this would be on live would be the reflex sight, but now it is the glow sight that reduces AP cost and is supposed to increase VATS accuracy as well. We've also got it with the suppressor. I mean, that if I'm going to use Stalkers, I want to have a suppressor. All right, so that was good. So we're going to put a little tail on this one. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back here and we're going to put a transition and we're just going to pull them together. It's actually pretty easy. We just pull them together and we're just going to meet at the little split there. And that'll give us a transition. Now there's different kinds you can have. You can have like a side scrolling and whatever. I just use the default because it works for me. But we'll just go right here and you'll see the transition. Have a look at the 10mm pistol. And there we go. Nice clean transition and we're on to the next stage. Now, one thing else I want to do is I will save. And what I do is once I get a section edited and I know I'm going to keep it, is I want to save at that point. I don't want to do the edit, save, and then find out that I stitched the wrong thing, because that'll happen sometimes. And this program sometimes will crash. And if it crashes, I have no undo. I can only undo things that I've done in this session. And once it closes, everything's perfect. And I've actually had to start over on things because I had a save and then I realized, oh, I shouldn't have saved at that point. It wasn't something I wanted to keep. Because right here, suppose I didn't want to keep this section. Once you have a transition in here, trying to get rid of that and giving yourself a clean, like suppose I had saved at that first transition or that first section that I just got rid of, and then it crashed. If I wouldn't be able to undo it. I mean, this point starting over wouldn't be a problem, but yeah, anyway, so I like to make sure that what I have is something that I want to stick with, and then I'll save. So when we just click the little save button up here, and that is saved. Let's see, we don't really need this is just an artifact because I had a split there and I dragged this section forward. All right, so then we have the next section, and I don't remember that this part when I'm doing the, going over the weapon or going over the build or whatever. This is the most likely spots where I have to have multiple attempts at things because I get tongue-tied. When I'm actually doing combat, I really can't control what's going to happen there, and I can't really do it over, like once I've killed everything. Unless I go into, reload the server or whatever, I can't, it's not an offline game where I could just save and then reload the save. That's not a thing. So let's see, this is the weapon we talked about. What do we have now? Now there are some changes you can see right away versus live. Number one, the damage is higher. This got a base damage increase of, I want to say it's either 70 or 71%, something like that. So it got a pretty big base damage increase, but it also got a nice increase in ammo capacity. On live, you'd be looking at 12 rounds. Now we have 24. And that means I could run a damage modifier on the first star instead of running quad. On live, if I'm running automatic, I'm pretty much using quad all of the time just because, yeah, the ammo capacity is pretty low. So, but at 24, that's very usable. All right, and so that's good. Like I could tell, I'm like, that's good. I wouldn't do that over. So we're gonna put a little pin on that. We'll tie that one together. And like, I don't need to double check that. Like I know that this transition is gonna be good just because I've done this enough. Now there are some changes. So it's a good transition, and because it's, the view didn't change, like it's not gonna, it's just like audio when, the audio goes into the audio, so it's fine there. All right, so we're gonna get rid of this delete and go to here. Just like to trim out the stuff that I know I'm not gonna need along the way. We've also got an increase in AP cost. So a comparably modded pistol on live would be an AP cost of 6, so we're all the way up to 10. So that is a pretty significant increase, but we're also getting a bump in damage, so it kind of offsets. So we do have a bit of an AP cost. Okay, that's what I thought. So I did that. Yeah, I did that twice because I wasn't sure on the AP cost of 6. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's right. But unless I'm 100%, I'd rather just hedge and go, it's 6 or 7. We know that it's higher because it doesn't matter a whole lot. But I don't want to say it's definitely 6 when if it's 7, right? So we are going to cut out that first section. And I know that I only did this twice, so this will be good. So what we'll do is we'll stitch that together. Let's undo that. It's one of those things where sometimes your mouse moves at the wrong time and you end up with a little clipping. So here we go. That's very usable. So we do have a bit of an AP cost increase. So we're looking at an AP cost of 10. I think we're somewhere around 6 or 7 on live. I don't remember the exact number, but it's something like that. It's either 6 or 7. It's definitely lower than what we're seeing here. So we're getting more damage, but we're also getting more AP cost. Something else that took a hit is the range. We're looking at 134. Modded this way on live, we'd be looking at 174. So that is a bit of a hit when it comes to range. And it looks like this is just meant to fill a niche. If you're going to use an automatic 10mm pistol, it's now intended to be a short to mid-range weapon. All right, that is good. Let's move on to the next. And that's a big gap. Is this where we go? Oh, okay. Now we're on the workbench. And I'm pretty sure the workbench went fine. Because we just watched that. So here's what I would do in this case, because the workbench section went, I think, pretty well. So we're just going to edit it and then preview it afterwards. So we're just going to go to where I'm not all the spots where I'm not talking, and then edit those sections out. And then we'll go through and we'll double check our work, but it should be pretty good as far as that goes, just because I know that one I didn't do. At least I don't think I did stuff over. So we're going to edit all the dead spots. That's kind of my thing. So someone gave me advice early on when I was doing YouTube. And the advice was, when you're editing, if you're not doing something or saying something, to get rid of it. And that's kind of I mean, I've been doing that since the beginning because I just think that's, it makes for videos that are less, I don't know, they flow better, and you're not, part of it is like the viewer's time, right? I mean, these are all like little bits and pieces that I'm taking out. I mean, it's 2 seconds here, 3 seconds there. But that video that we start out with, 24 minutes, by the time we're done, that's going to be, 10 to 12 minutes. And if you don't do a very good job of editing, you just end up wasting people's time where they're watching you. Because I think of the dead time in there as like prep work, and you don't really need to show people the prep work. You just need to show people the final result. Okay, so I got a big long tail there. And I think we're out of that. All right, let's look at that edit that we just did. We just stitched all the stuff together, and I was using the audio track to know when to edit, right? So is this the? No, that's not it. I went too far. I went to right. All right, here we. Oh no, it is a suppressor. That is on the. Okay, never mind. That is on the workbench. I got a little. All right, here we go. We're gonna go from the. Talking about the weapon to the workbench, to mid-range weapon. So let's look at some mods. First up, let's look at the suppressor, because this is new. And this is not just for this weapon, it's for all weapons that take a suppressor. You'll see there at the bottom, plus 50% sneak attack damage. Now that text is not in live, so I'm assuming that we're not getting that bonus sneak damage with the suppressor on live. If it's hidden damage, I've never heard about it. But yeah, that is a new thing. You put a suppressor on a weapon and you're getting bonus sneak damage. So I think that's actually pretty cool. So I run a tweaked automatic receiver on live, so that is the way I'm going to run it here. And that gives us bonus critical damage. There are a couple of other options that I would consider. Number one, we have the powerful automatic receiver. The damage that we do is more, but obviously we don't get the bonus critical damage. But the AP cost goes down as well. So we go from 10 down to 8. So you can stay in VATS longer. So I think this is a very reasonable option. Another option will be the prime automatic 10mm receiver. It does even more damage than powerful. The AP cost is in the middle, so we're at 9 AP, but you can see the range is more. So instead of 134, we're at 157, but we're losing fire rate. So instead of a 98 fire rate, we're at 89. So there's drawbacks to all of these, which I kind of like. It makes it a lot more interesting, and you have to put a little more thought into it when you're choosing the mods. But we're gonna run the tweaked automatic for today's little run. All right, so far we're happy about that. So I want to put a little splice there and save up to this point. So if anything happens, we haven't lost any of the work that we've done. One more thing I want to say about this is that if you do edit ever, You really have to be comfortable listening to yourself talk. As you can see, I spend a lot of time listening to myself. And that actually took a while to get used to. When I first, well, actually, before I started doing YouTube, when I first decided that I was going to get into it, I spent a lot of time, number one, just recording and getting used to talking while I was doing stuff, but also what I didn't realize, but getting used to my own voice. Because like everybody else, well, everybody that I've ever met anyway, I could never stand the sound of my own voice recorded. And it took a while. It's to the point now where I'm like, it's not like I love it, but I'm used to it, is what it is. It's almost like I'm listening to a different person. So I reached that point. So let's go on to the next. All right. So now we're on to the build. I guess we can, you really don't need the dead spot. I do things like, what do I do here? Let's see what so one of the things I do, I record on a custom server. And what's funny about custom servers is that suppose you eat a bunch of food, you take a bunch of food buffs, and they last like an hour. For whatever reason, when I come back to the custom server, all of the food buffs have expired. Even though I had just taken them, I've used them for like 5 minutes. If I load up the world again, all of the food buffs that I had are gone. So when I do this, I have to make sure that I redo all of the food buffs every single time I join this server, which is, I don't understand. Custom servers are really weird. They're really weird that way, but that's all that's happening here. I'm just making sure all my food buffs are where they need to be so that I can just go from the build into the mutations, into the buffs. I don't remember how this went. By the way, this is like my least favorite thing to edit when I'm going through this isn't a build video, so I kind of do an abbreviated version where I don't go through every single perk card. But like a full build video where I go through every single perk card, because of the way I like to edit things, I hate doing it, because I usually will do, here's a perk, and then I have a pause, here's a perk, and I have a pause. And if you look at the timeline down here, the thing, there's so many gaps, like especially if you're going through every single perk, there are so many little gaps, and it's just like a lot of little editing. You're cutting out like 2 seconds here, 3 seconds there. It makes for a much better finished product. But yeah, build videos are, which is one of the reasons why I don't want to go through all the builds. Another is time. I don't want to make a weapon video that's 30 minutes long. So, showing that it's not really about the build, but I do want to highlight things here and there. So let's go here. So here is the build. Let's see. First up, we've got Number Cruncher. 2% per AP. It's AP cost of 10, so this should give us 20% more damage there. Tormentor, more damage to crippled targets. Tank Killer, that is a recent change. The latest update on the PTS. Tank Killer is now a 2-point card, and it goes up to 40% damage rather than 40% armor penetration versus 35. And now it actually works for all ranged weapons. So all of the various ranged armor penetration perks are being consolidated into one, which I think is a really good change. Cinemasochist, because of the range, there'll be times we're just not going to get a good hit on maybe a weak spot, but the torso is usually a pretty decent hit chance. And so when we're in that situation, this will give us a nice boost to damage. And because of that short range, I want to get the VATS accuracy as high as I can get it. So we're using both awareness and maximum rank of concentrated fire. All right, so that covers all of perception. So we're going to go back here. And this is one I actually could have edited without watching it first, just because I had just done this recording, and so I knew that I got everything on the first go. Now here's a spot where there's a little bit of a gap, which I don't really like. So we're gonna narrow that gap between the two between that little gap. See how this sounds. First up, we've got Number Cruncher, 2% per AP. All right, that sounds all right. Let's see. So we've got. I don't think I had any other missteps, verbal missteps, that is. So we're just going to go through, edit this into, my hand slipped there a little bit. Edit this into something that's a bit of a little bit smoother experience. Do that. Okay. All right. Yeah, normally what I would do with this, if I typically like to edit like right after I record. I'll record and then do the edit. And part of the reason for that is everything is fresh in my head. And so that if I do have sections that I have to do over, it's fresh in my head. And when I'm editing, I can just skip them. I can just look at the timeline and know, okay, this is a spot when I know I had to do over. And it just saves me a lot of time when it comes to, I don't have to listen to the same thing that I know I'm just going to get rid of. So in this case, which we may do for the rest of the specials, but okay, now we put that all together. Let's make sure it all sounds reasonable.
Little run.
So here is the build. Let's see. First up, we've got Number Cruncher. 2% per AP. It's AP cost of 10, so this should give us 20% more damage there. Tormentor, more damage to crippled targets. Tank Killer, that is a recent change. The latest update on the PTS. Tank Killer is now a 2-point card, and it goes up to 40% damage rather than, or 40% armor penetration versus 35. And now it actually works for all ranged weapons. So all of the various ranged armor penetration perks are being consolidated into one, which I think is a really good change. Sinner Masochist, because of the range, there'll be times we're just not going to get a good hit on maybe a weak spot, but the torso is usually a pretty decent hit chance. And so when we're in that situation, this will give us a nice boost to damage. And because of that short range, I want to get the VATS accuracy as high as I can get it. So we're using both awareness and maximum rank of concentrated fire. All right, that's all good. So let's save that. And we'll do the rest of it, I think. We'll just do it the way I would normally do it, because I don't really think that I need to... we'll just cut that out here. Let's see, where are we? We're on Mr. Sandman. And that's another way I could tell is if I just click on the little section, I could see the cards I'm on. And if I click to the next... Now, this is a throat... Let's see, what is that? And we're facing... Yeah, so that's too short of a section for it to be a meaningful thing. So I know that's going to get cut out. But what I could do, see, I'm talking about adrenaline here in this little section, because I know that I pause between, I have silence in between perks. And if I go to the next one, right, it's not adrenaline. So I know I didn't have to do it over, right? That's kind of how I know. If I screwed up adrenaline, then this next little section would also be adrenaline because I would have to start over. So just by clicking ahead, I hope that makes sense. But just by clicking ahead to the next batch of talking, I could tell, okay, I moved on from adrenaline, which means I can just go ahead and do a cut here without having to listen to all that stuff. But yeah, I thought this was a throat clear, but it wasn't. It wasn't a throat clear. It was just a verbal meltdown as soon as I started talking, which does happen. So let's go through here and clip all of the dead. I mean, that's really all we're doing. We're just pruning all of the dead spots out of the video. For the most part. I mean, it's okay to have a little pause here and there, but not usually. That just isn't my style, isn't the way I do things. Now, this is probably, critical savvy, critical banker. That's the usual blurb there. And this should be the end of the perk section, I think. Right? Because this is going to be we're in the Pip-Boy at that point. All right, let's listen to the last of the things. Okay, so we talked about that. We talked about... All right, so we'll go from the end of perception, concentrated fire. Now, because of the Stalker's effect, that means we will be sneaking, so I'm using Mr. Sandman and Covert Operative for extra damage. And when we are facing multiple enemies, which will be most of the time, Adrenaline will just ramp up the damage with each kill up to 10. Grim Reaper Sprint has been changed again. I think this is the second change on this PTS. So now any kill in VATS will restore a percentage of our AP based on your luck. Luck on this character will be 16. I think that'll give us luck, or a percentage of RP. I think it's like 14, 15%, something like that. Every time we kill an enemy, we'll get that percentage of our AP restored instantly. And since we're doing critical hits, critical savvy, and better criticals. All right, there we go. One other thing I want to mention, if you hear a rattling in the background here and there, that's my cup of ice I'm drinking in between. I also do that when I don't necessarily drink when I'm editing, but when I'm talking constantly, I need to constantly... drink a thing. Normally I would, I can't necessarily edit that out because that's part of the video. So if you do hear rattling in the background here and there, that's just my drink with ice in it. We're doing sparkling water today. Okay, so the next section this was another one. We're just going through the mutations and the foods. And I know that this one went without an issue when I record it. So this is just a first go, and there's not really much in the way of stuff to edit either. Let's see, we have a little gap there. Is that the food? Yeah, that's the food. Yeah, this one actually went really smoothly. So I know that I could just edit that, and that's the end of that. All right, so we'll just make sure it's good, though. I always got to double check. And then, of course, criticals. Here are the mutations. Speed Demon for extra reload speed. Herd Mentality just boosts all our specials a little bit. Herbivore, I do use veggie food, so we're going to get double the benefit there. Egghead really isn't going to come into play in this particular case. Eagle Eyes, which is extra perception, extra critical damage. Bird Bones, extra stealth, extra AP. And Adrenal Reaction works just like Adrenaline, but it's 5% versus the 10% you get with Adrenaline. And as far as the food goes, the important one here is, well, there's two of them. Sweetwater Special Blend, so we pair that with Party Boy, so we get an extra boost of perception, which feeds into the awareness perk, so that'll really help with the VATS accuracy. And then Blight Soup for that extra critical damage. Oh yeah, and our luck is sitting at 16, which means we'll be doing a critical hit every third shot. All right, there we go. Yeah, I said when I put out the poll, I said it would be like a 20 to 30 minute video. At this point, I've been recording for 36 minutes. So this video is going to be longer than 20 to 30 minutes, I think, because I'm not going to do much editing on this one, just because there's not much to cut. You want to get the full experience. Now, here's something that happened, and I'm going to cut it because the video's already like this. The video we're editing, you can see we're at like 5 minutes, and we're still talking about things. We haven't actually got to combat. In fact, it's a little longer than I would like, but there really isn't much that I would cut there. I mean, I wanted to talk about the mods to the weapon and stuff, and that just adds more time. So this is going to end up being longer than I want, but I did mention this other part, and I'm going to end up cutting this from the video because I actually even did this twice too, and I'm going to end up cutting it. And in case you're curious, our perception is 36, and with that level of perception, awareness will give us an extra 33% VATS accuracy. Yep. Now our perception is 36, so with that level of perception, awareness will boost our VATS accuracy by 33%. None of that's really necessary. It's just something I threw in there. And even while I was recording, I thought, I'll probably end up cutting this, but I'm going to put it in here anyway. But I mean, because of length, I mean, the video is already getting to the point where it's longer than I want it to be. So we're just going to get rid of that. And all this is dead space. Here we go. The throat clear. But we're going to go right to here, the combat. And once we get to combat, video editing goes a lot quicker because there doesn't tend to be a lot of gaps. I mean, I just go into it and I do what I'm going to do. And yeah, there's very little there, so we can cut this pretty easily. Let's save it first before we stitch it together, though. We'll do a little save, and then we're going to stitch this together, and then we will see how it went. Yeah, because the combat, I mean, the bloopers will happen, but the bloopers are usually what enemies do or whatever. So if I say something, unless it's just really bad, where because that has happened before, where my mind just has a meltdown. And I'm just like, I can't keep that. And I just end up trying to cut around it in the combat. Usually it doesn't happen. Usually what you get is just what happens. Critical hit every third shot. Now, the bad thing about the hit to range is that our damage will drop off much sooner than it would on live. Although we are doing more damage at 0% on the head. We are doing more damage, so it kind of makes up for that a little bit. And then when we're close up to the enemies, darn it, he went out of sight a little too quickly, but when we're close up to the enemies, our damage should be significantly higher. So there is that. But overall, and I do like the sound. That has been altered a little bit versus live, and I actually like it a lot. I like it a lot better than live. So, and it also isn't only the suppressed version that is where the sound has changed. In fact, it may not be all the. Oops. So much for being hidden. There we go. Back to caution. Yeah, anytime we hit danger, we are going to be taking a hit to damage. That Stalker's effect is just going to do, well, it's basically a non-legendary first star once we're, but thankfully, I mean, we're, okay, so, okay. That was one of those weird things. Sometimes that happens. You cripple an enemy, and it drops them down. And even though it looks like you're actually hitting them, I don't really think that you are. And that's when you get those situations where you're getting damage pop-ups, but nothing's happening because the enemy's not physically in that position anymore that VATS is targeting. At least I think that's what's going on. That's just my crazy theory, but it's as good as anything else I've heard. Let's do a little crippling there. And let's see. I mean, even at range, even with range drop-off, I mean, that is pretty far out there. We're still doing, I mean, the damage is actually really good. This feels really good. All right, so that's the end of that section. It went pretty well. We got a throat clear there. I will spare you that this time. Another thing I want to say, and it may be obvious, it may not, but I don't do, because there's a couple of ways you can actually do these kind of videos. You could actually do all the combat and then do the voiceover afterwards. I don't do that. I talk while I'm actually doing it. Number one, it just is easier to, it feels more natural instead of having to do commentary after you've done a thing. Plus you wouldn't get any surprise, like my reactions wouldn't be the same. The things I say wouldn't be the same if it was something that, okay, I know this has already happened. It would just be a different thing. And I actually think it would be more difficult to do it that way. So yeah, but I know that that is a way that some people may do things, but we have a big dead spot, and so you can see I could just skip all these sections. I don't need to play through the dead spot because I know that nothing is happening, because that is the way. We have a little trickle here, so this may be a spot that I want to play to just to see, because we may have to do a little cutting right there. And I forgot to save before I dragged that together, but it's fine. Really good. This feels really good. All right, there's a Gulper. They're pretty tanky. We have a rare. I mean, we're actually doing all right targeting the head. Even though they're moving around, the hit chance was always pretty reasonable. What about this guy? No. All right, so we leave that in. The big adjustment for VATS will be the, okay, now we have no, there we go. The big adjustment for VATS will be the, you know, the positioning of the enemy. When they turn or whatever, the line of sight can change. And when that happens, VATS accuracy can go, it can go from really good to non-existent. So that'll be an adjustment. I actually like that. It's a lot more. I mean, I know this really isn't. I mean, there's so many things. If you're going down the realism tree, there's so many things. But it just feels. It feels a little better. I think. I know not everyone will agree, especially if you're used to soloing the Guardian by, you know, targeting that shield and VATS. That's just not going to be a thing. Oh, now I'm in danger. Which, oh, there you are. The problem with this location is that once you're in danger with from one robot, they act like a hive mind. And it's really hard to get out of danger again. So we're operating without a, all right, now we're in caution. All right, so now we're back to a legendary first star. So even though, I mean, that's pretty far, we're still, you know, we're still hitting with a reasonable rate. We're still doing good damage. So I would say for the most part, at least for the things I'm doing so far, I'm not really noticing, you know, the effects of that range, you know, the range cut that we took. Let's do... Now, I know this is a little thing. I mean, this is not any kind of leg, but gaps like that where it's completely flat and I just have this pause. I like to get rid of those. Not always, but just that one just kind of bugs me. So we're gonna stitch that a little bit together. And yeah, I don't know. You know, the effects of that range, you know, the range cut that we took. Yeah, I like that better. What do we want to do? Front leg? Can't shoot the fusion core, so I can't really target anything because of the, this is, I mean, he's crippled, so let's finish him off here. Oh, he's gonna blow. All right, we crippled him, he's gonna blow. We don't need to do anything else. He's done for. Yeah, you could hear me right there. I was starting to get a little something in my throat, so I had to stop what I'm doing. We're gonna spare you the throat clear, which is what this thing is right here. And we're just going to cut around it. I actually had a video once where I wasn't really conscious of that. I was just talking and I cleared my throat without even a thought. And then when I'm editing and I'm like, oh my God. And it was really hard to cut around because there was no pause. It was just me talking, throat clear, and kept talking and trying to cut around that because I'm not going to have a throat clear in a video. That's just not going to happen. Yeah, it was very difficult. That's only happened to me one time though. Usually I know it's coming and I stopped moving at that point and whatever. So yeah, that's a thing. Sometimes you get things that are just, you know, user error and it's hard to edit around. Now this stuff like this, like when I see, you know, the audio like this, it really bugs me, but I think this actually went okay. I mean, cause even though I'm not talking, I'm actually doing stuff. Of course. So I can't really target anything because of the, this is, I mean, he's crippled. Yeah, so as funky as this looks, there's not really any way that I could cut that. And I don't think I want to, I think it's fine. So, but we're up to I'm going to save this. And we just cleared out we cut out the throat clearing. He's done for. All right, but now I'm back in danger. Again, this location is that way. You get discovered by, I don't think I'm going to get any kind of good. Yeah, 10% isn't. 66 is okay though. Now I'm back to hidden. All right, wow, okay. Back to hidden and stalkers, it's doing its thing again. I don't necessarily think, I don't know if I would actually choose stalkers or not for this, because if you do, you're basically you know, relegating your play to this type of, yeah, see, I don't like that. I don't like this long pause right here. I mean, it's not long. I mean, for me, when I'm looking at this looks like an eternity. I know probably most people wouldn't even care, but I see that and it drives me nuts. In fact, what is this whole section here for this? Because if you do, you're basically, you know, relegating your play. All right, so I'm gonna do I'm gonna snip this a little bit. This just bugged me. I know it's not a lot of time, but it just bothers me to have like these weird gaps, like my brain just like you can hear my brain. Like the silence is my brain just shutting off or whatever. So we're gonna see if we can clean this up a little bit so it sounds a little smoother and see how that is or not for this. Because if you do, you're basically relegating your play to this type of
That's
thing.
better.
And something like an event where stealth is very often disabled, you're going to. There we go. You're going to have a web. See, that one is actually kind of natural. I mean, you could tell I'm searching for a thing, but still, I don't know. It's kind of my style. I know not everyone does it the same way, but that's what I like to do. I like to cut out dead spots like that. Every little bit helps. There we go. You're gonna have a weapon that's not doing. That was too aggressive. That was too aggressive of a cut. Because part of that was me acquiring in VATS. Let's undo. There we go. All right, so maybe some in VATS there. All right, let's do it like this. I mean, it's a minor thing. I don't even know if that's a full second, but just do that a little bit better. All right, let's see what we got here. There we go. There we go. I like that a little bit. You're going to have a weapon that's not doing, the full damage versus if you had something like, I don't know, anything else. Furious. I actually quite like Juggernauts too, if you can get your health up there. Two-shot is actually pretty good. I mean, if you're using in VATS, the accuracy really is not a problem. Did that? Oh, jeez. I love that. I love that he could target me, but I can't. Okay, whatever. Whatever. It's not a level playing field. I get it. Life's not fair. The video game's not fair. But we're back to hidden. All right, so that section's good. I like it. Now we have this spot down here. I left this in because this is part where I'm being targeted, right? So I'm not necessarily talking, but I'm in the process of looking for something I'm being shot at. So it would be kind of weird if I took it out. We can go skip ahead here to about right like that. Now there's no, in terms of how much of a tail to leave, there's no magic formula. I mean, you can leave as long as you want. I just like to make sure they're the same on both sides. And then you get just better. I think you just get nicer transitions that way. But in terms of how much to leave as a tail or a head right here, there's no magic formula. This is about the length that I tend to look for if I can. All right, so now we're on to the next section. We're gonna shoot some snallygasters, I think. We're back to hidden. But I actually do think Stalkers is quite a good effect if you're planning on just sneaking, and of course, if they ever fix sneak, make it so that sneak actually works a lot better than it does now. I mean, it works fine here, but there are so many situations, especially when it comes to like repeatable content, where sneak is just doesn't work. It's broken. And if that were fixed, I think Stalkers would even be better. But with damage sneak damage being multiplicative now, at least on the PTS it is, it definitely raises the value of Stalkers. But again, once you go into danger, Stalkers it's a nothing. It's a nothing effect. But as it is right now, as we're using it here, it's working quite well. And I like how this gun feels. I do like the changes. I don't like the range. I mean, why? I mean, who would like less range, right? I mean, of course I'm not going to like less range, but overall it looks bad on paper, but in practice, it actually doesn't feel, I mean, a lot of cases you're this close to the enemy and the range doesn't really matter. And I wouldn't necessarily use this for snipering anyway. So I would say for the most part, I'm not feeling, at least so far, I'm not really feeling the effects of the decreased range. That's funny. I said snipering, and even when I said it, I remember I was recording, I thought, snipering? What is that? But yeah, it's in there. So yeah, I can't wait for people to comment on snipering's not a word or whatever. But yeah, that's good so far. So we're gonna save that. I want to make sure that I didn't miss any. Because I've had that happen before when I've got a video and I didn't do the transition, I just did the cutting. And then because I have to watch it again, because after I'm done doing all this, then I have to create a new file with all the edits in it. And there have been times when I've missed doing a transition, and then it's like you just have this weird dead spot, and I think, oh, so I have to go back and fix it and then do it again. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that's good there. So we got the next spot. Let's do that here. Let's see. Sometimes the brain goes away, and that's a nothing there too. All right, so let's stitch this because I'm pretty sure this section went okay, just from what I remember. And let's get rid of this little dead spot. This is a section where there'll be frequently dead spots, just because sometimes the enemies just aren't there, and I have to go looking for them. So I want to just jump ahead. Everything looks okay. All right, I think we're good. I think we got this all in one go. So let's see how this one plays out. The decreased range. And the increased AP cost really hasn't been a factor either. This isn't really the kind of weapon that you tend to you're not dumping hundreds of rounds in vats without leaving vats. So it's not really that much of an issue, especially for the way I'm using it here. And there's always the option you can put conductors on the 4-star. You can and you can mod it differently as well. I mean, you could do the powerful automatic. You lose the extra critical bonus, but your AP cost goes down by 20%. So pretty decent savings there. Let's get them out and run over here and deal with. There's usually a Blood Eagle or something. There's some Blood Eagles. Get our adrenaline up as high as we can get it. There's 7. All right, so I want to stay hidden here. Number 1, I don't want. So just one thing I want to talk about, like right here, like this is a gap. So before I was editing out gaps, like in the previous area that I was in, I was editing out gaps, or 2 areas ago, that were this size, and this one I left in. And sometimes it just boils down to feel. Like this to me didn't feel like it felt fine, and sometimes it doesn't, and that's just me. I mean, sometimes it just feels like that little gap, I don't like it, and this one just feels kind of like it is part of the flow. And so there's really no hard and fast rule that I have with getting rid of stuff like that. It's just sometimes a little gap like that feels massive, and sometimes it just feels like it's just part of the flow and it's good. So that's why this was left in, because it just didn't feel like it needed to be edited out. On her hitting me, but let's see, I want Spout. All right, and she didn't fall down face first into a wall, which is good. I got another someone. I hear one over here. Oh, there we go. Just the shell. Of course, it's just the shell that I can target. Do that. Get adrenaline up to 8, and no. Get those spouts. That's where the most damage is going to happen. I mean, she's been buffed. She has higher resistance and higher health. And so here we're feeling the effects of the increased AP cost. We're just not able to stay in vats as long, but she still dies. Okay, so that was good. Let's save it, and let's move on to the next section. Now, one time, I already know we're gonna have some problems here. But one time, I was doing a video. This was a couple years ago, I think, and I went into Helvetia, and I was shooting Scorched. I don't remember what the video was, but I went into Helvetia to shoot some Scorched, and a bunch of the 3 vertibirds with the vertibot, they were flying overhead, and they start shooting the Scorched start shooting them. And so I have this video going, and between the noise from the vertibots, all the dust they were kicking up, you couldn't see anything, you couldn't hear anything, and my recording just was like, sometimes things happen, and you have to, and that was my plan, is like, I'm going to go to this area to do this thing, and at that point I couldn't, like, it was just completely unusable. So my choice was either, go somewhere else, do different footage, and I don't remember what I did. But I'm just telling you that story to show you this. All right, let's see how the reduced range works on a flying thing and the minions. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe my delivery of the Scorch Beast has been delayed. Yeah, I'm not sure where's the Scorch Beast? There's supposed to be a Scorch Beast here. Yeah, I don't know what's happening. I mean, we have a Fisher Sight, we have Scorched. No, there's Scorched. There's no. Yeah, we have to do a do-over here. Now I just have to kill 10 million Scorched so I can go to another Fisher Sight. So that's convenient. This video is cursed. Last time I did this video, the power went out right at this part, and I lost everything I had done. And yeah, this time the Scorch Beast, I don't know what's happening at all. None of this is gonna make it in the video. Holy shit. Jeez. Man. Okay. Can I All right. This is not going well at all. This is okay. Let's go to another Fisher site, and I didn't want to fight a bunch of Scorch Beasts, but there's still something around somewhere. I don't know what, but yeah, this video has been a lot of it's been very challenging just to get this video made, which it shouldn't be. It's not anything special, just a weapon video. But yeah, I'm just talking to myself at this point. Yeah, so that's what happened. That's never happened to me before. Scorch Beast, no Scorch Beast there, but that was the section. So the story of the power going out and losing it was I had actually finished that area. I'd killed the Scorch Beast, was getting ready to do my outro, and then the power went out and it was all lost. So yeah, this video, just getting this video made has been a bit of a thing. Let's do there. All right, so I know I could cut all that stuff out. I mean, I knew pretty quickly that all this stuff was going to be not in the video because yeah. Obviously why. Yeah. Anyway, oops, that was weird. That was interesting. All right, let's do save that. And then I think this actually went off pretty reasonably. So we're just gonna stitch it together and see how it goes. Dies. So we're going to fight a Scorch Beast, multiple Scorch Beasts. My plan was to go to the Fisher site that I normally go to, this one right here. There was no Scorch Beast there at all. There was lots and lots of Scorched, but no Scorch Beasts. So got a little bit of a do-over. I guess I can't hit it. Either my aim is bad or I'm just way outside of the range. So, yeah, I just wanted to fight one Scorch Beast, not multiples, but it looks like what I want today doesn't matter at all. Well, maybe there's only one. Maybe there's only one Scorch Beast. All right, that's a dead spot right there. We gotta trim this section out. That there's nothing happening at all there. It's like, yeah, I don't know. So we'll get that out. Sew that together like that. And this was okay, right? Let's see. This is already feeling a little funky, but it looks like what I want today doesn't matter. You know what? Let's do this. So what I want, let's get rid of the today part because that's a little bit of a thing. So this is the part where I put on my glasses so I can get up close to the screen. Because I want to make sure I cut it, but I don't want to cut it where I have like a weird sound. Whoops, I had it perfectly. I didn't do the cut. I want to cut it, but I want to cut it in a way that I don't have a weird sound clipping anything. So we're going to just trim out this part here. Stitch that together like so, and then remove this little ripple delete right here. Let's see how that plays. This was fine, right? Because I was shooting stuff, so that's fine. Let's see how that sounds. Looks like what I want doesn't matter at all. Well, maybe there's only one. Maybe there's only one Scorch Beast on this whole server. Maybe there's not bad. There we go. I knew I wasn't gonna be the ace. Let's see if we can do as much as we can before it actually hits the sky. That wasn't a lot. I mean, it is. There we go. I want to stay in caution though. So try not to get found out by minions. I mean, these have a lot of health. Especially the legendary versions. You can see our damage is really good though. And we're able to stay hidden, which is nice. So hidden that this one's never gonna, there we go. Get its attention. It's kind of weird. It feels, all right, so there's nothing happening there. So I'm gonna cut this out as well. Scorch Beast fights are always kind of problematic because sometimes you have that. You end up with like long stretches when the Scorch Beast is just flying around. And yeah, I could leave that in. But I don't think it's horribly, I mean, it's frustrating when it's happening. So let's play this out right here. Get its attention. It's kind of weird. It feels like there should be more minions. And I'm just not, I don't know. Just one of those, it's just one of those things. There we go. All right, now it's going to do a crop dust. I was hoping to do enough damage to cripple something, but that wasn't to be. Oh, there we go. Now the minions are coming and... Are we going to actually have a fight? There we go. Now we're actually going to have a fight. You can see once it holds still, we're able to do really good damage. Yeah, this performs excellent. All right, so was that the end? Okay, that was the second Scorch Beast. I couldn't remember if that was the second Scorch Beast. And so then what happens is I'm just positioning myself for the, a good shot for the outro. There was actually a Deathclaw in the background. Deathclaw over there. Right up here. Right here, there's a Deathclaw. It's hard to see with this resolution the way it is, but let's get this thing. There was a little Deathclaw in the background, but that was fine. All right, so we've got that. I don't remember how this went, but we'll cut out all the dead spot here. This is I mean, I know when I see sound like this, like these little blips, I know that that's nothing. I can skip that. Let's see. And we had, I think this first part went okay. And there you go, the 10mm pistol. On paper, the range hit and the AP hit seem like they would be bad. All right, we're gonna close this gap up a little bit. It's a little bit too long of a pause for my taste. So we'll just like, that should be okay. Let's see how that sounds though. The range hit and the AP hit seem like they would be bad things. And, you know, obviously they're not positive, but for the most part, they're also not noticeable either. What is noticeable? The extra damage. That is noticeable for sure. And this thing actually feels really good. All right, and so I had that, and I'm pretty sure I got two little things right here. Like this part is good because this is always the same thing right here. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit one of the buttons, blah, blah, blah. That's what that is. So I know that that's good right there because that's always the last thing I say. And once I say it, I'm not going to do like 10 takes on it. So I know that that's good. So we'll trim off the end. I like to do the same thing on the end as the video, as the beginning, leave a little bit of just, you know, little space there. So it's just this stuff right here that I have to figure out what I'm keeping and what I'm not. Because I'm pretty sure this first part I'm getting rid of. But we're going to trim out all the dead spots anyway. Oops. Let's see. That's right here. That's the outro. Okay, I'm getting confused. Sorry, I'm confusing myself. All right, let's see this part. All of these changes should be part of the September update. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Yeah, obviously that's not a keeper. So that was, sometimes that happens. If you don't have a script, sometimes weird things can happen. All right, so what is this? And all of these changes should be part of the September update. All right, so we know that's good. So we're gonna stitch all this together and then, darn it, my hand. Sometimes that happens. The mouse gets a little bit of movement. I don't get exactly what I want. Take out this thing, stitch that. Actually, this is kind of a, get those kind of the same size. Do that. Do that. All right, now we'll stitch this together. And let's see how the outro, oh, I didn't, hang on, I didn't stitch that first part in. That's what's going on. All right. Sometimes things go smoothly, sometimes they don't. All right, here this performs excellent. And there you go, the 10mm pistol. On paper, the range hit and the AP hit seem like they would be bad things. And, you know, obviously they're not positive, but for the most part, they're also not noticeable either. What is noticeable? The extra damage. That is noticeable for sure. And this thing actually feels really good. And all of these changes should be part of the September update. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please hit one of the buttons, and I hope you'll join me in the next one. Thank you very much. And there you go. We took a 24-minute video, trimmed it down to 14. I would have liked it to be a bit shorter than that, but the beginning of it was pretty long, and that was just because I was going over the weapon mods. Sometimes it just can't be helped. I mean, the video is as long as it needs to be, I think. And then at that point, what we do, because this is our project file. I don't remember it's like MKV or something like that, or MLT, I think, maybe. Yeah, MLT. Oh yeah, it's MLT. So that's an MLT file. And we want to turn this into an MP4. And then that's just an export. So I do an export and I put it into the folder that I want. There you go. And then I just have to wait for it to render. That'll take, 3 or 4 minutes. And that's it. And then what you have left is the final product that's updated to YouTube. And then I'll watch it again. So once I render the file, then I watch it again. Then I upload it to YouTube because things can happen. It's been rare, maybe once or twice where I've rendered the video and then some weird audio artifact gets in there that is something happens and the rendered video isn't right. There's some corruption in there and I have to do it again. So I want to make sure that the video is. And also, sometimes I'll miss things, and that'll happen too. I'll misspeak in a video where I'll say handmade, and it's a fixer video, right? And I may say handmade, and I'll go, oh, okay, I have to go back, and then I'll just put like a little blurb on the screen showing, just to say yes, I get it, I know, so sometimes I have to go in and do stuff like that, and I don't catch it when I'm editing. I don't catch it until I'm actually reviewing the video for upload. So, but by the time I'm done, as you can see, I have to listen to myself say the same thing quite a few times before we get to that point. And so my plan for this video is to release this. I think I'll do it at the same time as I release the finished product. So you'll get the behind the scenes video at the same time as the the final version of the video that everyone else will see. Or maybe this one will come out a little bit earlier, like an hour or two or something. But I want it to be kind of close so you can see this video and then see what the final product looks like, just to, as kind of a before and after. Yeah, this is much longer. I think this video is going to be close to an hour. Yeah, it'll probably be about an hour long. Wow, much longer than I originally planned. But again, it's as long as, and I wanted to show the whole process, not just, bits and pieces of it. I wanted to show you the whole process. So yeah, so for the people that said they liked it, I hope or that were interested in it, I hope that I hope that you're still interested in it. I hope you like this video. But yeah, that's all for me today. So hopefully you enjoy this process. And yeah, once again, as always, thank you very much for being channel members.